He fired me with a grin like he'd just gotten laid. That's what I remember most. Not the words, not the sterile HR voice dialing in on speaker like they were doing a teeth cleaning. No, just the look on his face, standing in the doorway of my office at 11:47 p.m. saying, "Thanks for the code," like I'd just gift-wrapped my soul for him to sell. Then the cherry. "We're streamlining, best of luck." And just like that, my access vanished. Slack logged me out mid-keystroke. My GitHub 2FA pinged and locked. Calendar, gone. The platform I built from scratch for 9 straight months, hijacked, stolen, renamed in the repo header before I even packed my charger. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't say a damn word. I just looked him dead in the eye, nodded once like I was making a mental note to bury him later, and grabbed my bag. On the inside of the door, there was a post-it I'd slapped up 2 weeks ago after another 14-hour debugging marathon. One word scrawled in Sharpie, pizza. I smiled at it for the first time in days. He didn't notice. Of course he didn't. If you're hearing this and you're one of the 97% who listens without subscribing, consider hitting that button. Like the video too? It seriously helps the team keep doing this. Thanks. Back in the parking lot, the air was wet with that kind of post-rain October fog that clings to your skin like regret. I didn't even sit in the car at first, just leaned against the door, watching the glass building I'd practically bled into flicker with fluorescent smugness. My name was never on the founder slide, but that platform, it breathed in my syntax. Every error message had my cadence. Every shortcut was my muscle memory encoded into interface. I was the thing. But he thought, because I wore jeans and carried a backpack, instead of a VC smile and a Patagonia vest, I didn't know the value of what I made. He didn't know I'd already planned for this. Weeks ago, buried deep in the deployment pipeline, I'd written a condition, a single line, invisible in the clutter of CI/CD logs, no alerts, no triggers. Just, if user access for me, qua false, replace demo payload with alt demo 01.mp4. That file? A beautifully dumb looping full-screen GIF of a spinning slice of pizza, 1997 pixel quality. Just hypnotic, cheesy nonsense. Harmless? Hilarious? Petty? Maybe. But effective? You'll see. And the best part? Legally, the demo payload wasn't part of the codebase. It was licensed separately, from my LLC, with a time-stamped invoice. So when the system pulls it from the cloud tomorrow at exactly 9:01 a.m., right when Mr. Ivy League clicks launch in front of a room full of investors and Bloomberg cameras, it'll do exactly what it was programmed to do. It won't crash. It won't break. It'll run. Just not his version. Mine. And it'll start with a slice of greasy spinning pizza and end with my name. I woke up without an alarm, which was rare. My body had been on 4 hours of sleep and 14 hours of caffeine for months. But today, I slept like a python that just swallowed a goat. Peaceful, heavy, unbothered. By 7:10 a.m., I was already in a booth at Jackson's Diner, 3 blocks from HQ, the same place the dev team used to do Friday breakfasts before the new regime made bonding mandatory and artificial. The waitress, Betty, poured my coffee without asking. The usual, she said, eyes kind like a grandma who wouldn't ask why I looked like I'd just crawled out of a workplace crime scene. Double pancakes, bacon, no egg, I said, cracking open my laptop. She nodded and walked off like we'd done this 1,000 times. And we had. The countdown was ticking. Right there in the corner of my screen, 00:48:27. Just under 49 minutes until launch. I sipped my coffee and watched the numbers drop, while butter slid across a stack of pancakes, like time itself was melting. Across town, I knew the CTO was already pacing in his stupid custom sneakers, hyping himself in the mirror like a varsity quarterback about to pitch someone else's touchdown as his own. I bet he shaved twice this morning. Smug doesn't photograph well in 4K. The press was already being ushered into the boardroom. I recognized the setup from a leaked Slack image one of the interns posted before getting scolded by HR. That long, sterile demo table, 12 investor chairs, and the massive 80-inch screen at the end like it was a damn shrine. And at the altar, my system, my code, my sweat, my obsession. But today, it was his, or so he thought. I knew the junior devs would be there early too. I could picture them, especially Alina, the one who always asked the right questions and got silenced with a smile. I trained her better than to trust people who smile too much. She saw the architecture logs, saw what got pushed, saw what got removed. She probably noticed what didn't get replaced. I bet she even tried to say something this morning. Maybe she tugged on Greg's hoodie and said, "Should we double-check the demo payload folder?" And maybe Greg, who still thought promotions came from obedience, shook his head and whispered, "Don't. He'll hear you." Because fear is the only performance metric our CTO ever measured. Back in the diner, the TV was playing some fluff tech segment. I ignored it. My eyes stayed on the countdown. 0, 16, and 39. Betty dropped off my food. "Big day?" she asked. "Something like that," I said, cutting into the stack. Down the street, people were taking their seats. Lights were dimming. My former manager, well, manager by name only, was clearing his throat, probably about to launch into a speech he didn't write about technology he couldn't spell. He'd practiced this, smiling into mirrors, practiced acting like he understood the predictive logic engine I built, practiced the phrase, "Our vision is democratized intelligence." That was mine. He stole it right off my pitch notes and made it a slide headline. He never asked what it meant. I forked another bite of pancakes, pulled my hoodie sleeve back, and watched the screen. 9. I leaned back, wiped syrup from my fingers, and clicked open the camera feed one of the juniors had accidentally left open on a shared link. It showed the demo screen glowing against a dark room, the CTO's hand poised dramatically above the keyboard like he was about to launch a rocket. He pressed the key, the screen blinked, and then pizza. The CTO stood at center stage like he thought someone was about to propose to him. Spotlights bathed his over-ironed button-down in this eerie, sterile glow. The kind of light that makes even successful people look like mannequins. Behind him, the screen loomed, blacked out, waiting. There was a hush in the room, the type of silence that smells like money and nerves, and that fake citrus cologne venture capitalists always wear. You could practically hear the weight of expectations pressing down on the table. $95 million in potential funding, 3 acquisition offers, and 6 months of investor blue balls. "Welcome," he said, voice smooth, calculated, just a hint of "I went to Yale" smug. "What you're about to see will redefine enterprise intelligence as we know it." He clicked the spacebar. My heart didn't race. I didn't flinch, just sat there in the booth, calmly watching on my little borrowed feed, one hand still wrapped around my coffee mug. The screen blinked once. The loading cursor spun, paused, disappeared, and then, there it was. Full screen, high contrast, low resolution, spinning endlessly in the center of a corporate boardroom like a greasy middle finger to everyone who called me just the code girl. A single slice of pepperoni pizza, slowly twirling, dripping cheese, looping in hypnotic rhythm. No UI, no buttons, no interface, no predictive models, no onboarding walkthrough, just pizza. My pizza. And in the lower right corner, barely visible, like a watermark on a Renaissance painting, demo environment powered by my name, LLC, invoice, door 1001. The silence that followed was a religious experience. You could hear a pen fall. Someone's phone vibrated against the mahogany table. One guy, some associate from Mayfield or Andreessen, I couldn't tell, stifled a laugh that came out like a cough. Then another. Then someone near the back chuckled for real. Not because it was funny, because they realized what was supposed to happen. Didn't. I saw the CTO freeze. Not all at once, piece by piece. His face didn't change at first. He smiled too long, like he thought it was a prank someone else had pulled, like the real demo would load in a second. But seconds passed. His finger mashed escape. Nothing. Ctrl+Q, Alt+Tab, nothing. That slice just kept spinning, graceful, mocking, eternal. And then the CEO stood up, slowly. The chair behind him scraped the floor like a horror movie violin. "What the hell is this?" he said, his voice flat. But his eyes, pure nuclear dread. The CTO tried to speak, but only managed, This isn't..." He clicked again, smashed the keyboard once. The screen blinked black, then reloaded. Pizza. Loop. Cheese pull. Glorious. By now, I'd pushed my plate aside and pulled my laptop closer. The embedded telemetry was working perfectly. No errors, no failures, just perfect obedience. The system did what it was told. If I was gone, run alt demo euros 120 MP4. And it was. I watched a senior investor close his notebook. Another grabbed his coat. One of the interns tried not to cry. The CTO's mouth hung open. His hands hovered helplessly over the keyboard, like they might summon an interface from the void. They wouldn't. Because there was no interface. Because without me, there was no product. The silence after the second restart was thicker than blood. Nobody dared breathe. The lights were still dimmed, giving the whole boardroom this post-apocalyptic glow. Like the only thing left in the world was that spinning, dripping slice of pizza. You could see grease trails pixelating like they were coated in vengeance. And then, in the bottom right corner, the faintest shimmer of text faded in, just slow enough to punch them all in the throat. Code by My Name, LLC. Invoice, door 1001. The CEO blinked once, then again. His face went paper white. Not angry white, not confused white. No, compliance white. The shade that comes when someone realizes they just stepped barefoot onto a legal landmine. "What is this?" he asked, voice hoarse, quiet. It wasn't a question. It was a prayer. The CTO, who'd been standing frozen like a malfunctioning NPC, snapped into action. Clicked the mouse. Nothing. Pressed the keyboard like a chimp trying to unlock a vending machine. Still nothing? He yanked the HDMI, then re-plugged it, like somehow the cable was conspiring with me. But that screen just blinked black, then loaded back into the loop. Pizza, spin, cheese, loop. By now, I could see the back of an investor's head as he stood, shaking his own silently, before sliding his tablet into a leather case. Another man leaned to whisper something to the woman beside him. She was already on her phone, probably texting someone to pull out. In 10 minutes, That room had gone from hopeful electricity to a graveyard of credibility. The CTO was visibly sweating now, little patches forming at his armpits like betrayal had a scent, and it was coming from inside the house. There's been a breach or something," he stammered. "I think she must have gotten back in." "She didn't," came a voice from the side of the room. It was Alina, quiet but firm, one of the junior devs. She was clutching a folder and shaking slightly, but she said it again. "She didn't get back in. I checked the logs. Nobody touched the deployment since the last authorized push. Everything's clean. This is the default payload now." The CTO looked like someone had just pulled the emergency brake on his entire career. "What the hell are you talking about?" "It's a conditional failover," Alina said, voice barely above a whisper. "The system runs alt-demo ORU1 if her credentials are removed. It's buried in the CI pipeline. You never revoked her cloud key. You just killed her access. So it did exactly what it was supposed to." I nearly applauded from the diner. Betty slid me a refill, saw the smirk on my face, and raised an eyebrow. "Big win?" she asked. "You could say that," I said, sipping slow. Back in the boardroom, panic was setting in like smoke under a door. One of the marketing guys tried to unplug the whole setup from the wall. Someone else fumbled with a backup laptop, desperately trying to find a build version without the condition embedded. Too late. The real product was gated behind my keys. And those lived inside a little shell script tied to my LLC. I remembered writing that line. It was 2 a.m. My eyes were fried. My spine was curled like a shrimp. And I typed it with the same calm spite you use to leave a tip for a bartender who insulted your drink order. If user, her, null, load, alt, demo, 01 done, MP4. That was it. That's all it took. 1 line of insurance, 1 slice of vengeance. And now, watching the CTO melt in front of 3 board members and the goddamn tech press, I didn't feel rage or bitterness. Just completion. That quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd been erased and still couldn't be replaced. It didn't take long. By lunch, I had 3 messages in my LLC inbox from reporters, 2 from pissed-off ex-coworkers, and 1 anonymous tip with the subject line, "Heads are rolling." Attached? A forwarded internal thread from the CTO himself. Subject, urgent, sabotage confirmation. He'd CC'd legal, PR, and the CEO, writing in that passive-aggressive corporate tone people use when they know they're in freefall. His words were slippery. "It appears her name may have introduced unauthorized logic into the demo system. Investigating breach vectors now. Possible grounds for litigation?" Litigation? Cute. What he didn't realize, and what the junior devs were apparently very happy to clarify, was that the logs were airtight. I hadn't touched a thing since the second HR cut my access. The logs even showed it. Last activity, time-stamped 2 hours before termination. The last push was clean, verified, signed. Every file matched the hash in the CI pipeline. The pizza wasn't sabotage. It was logic. Logic he failed to review. Meanwhile, the codebase still refused to compile properly without my personal key, the one embedded in the deployment license file. Legal caught that around 1:17 p.m., according to another email that leaked through the grapevine. One of the paralegals apparently flagged it after checking the standard onboarding doc I wrote myself 6 months earlier. Clause 4.3, subpoint C. Demo logic and payload management are tied to a non-transferable license registered under her name, LLC. Any modification or redistribution without explicit consent voids usage rights. Voids usage rights. That's the part that made the board lose their collective minds. From what I heard, it got ugly fast. CEO called an emergency session. Someone from PR actually cried. Not figuratively, like real tears. There were rumors one of the investors demanded his money back on the spot. Another sent a memo titled Breach of Trust. And the cherry on top? An email with the subject line, Restitution Proposal, Draft Only, Do Not Forward, hit my inbox, care of the board's external counsel. And while all this played out like a slow-motion train wreck, I sat on my balcony with a sandwich and watched the world try to untangle itself from one lazy, arrogant assumption that I was disposable. But what shook them the most, what really set the fire, they couldn't even pin on me. I didn't hack anything. I didn't sneak in. I didn't change a line of code post-deletion. It did what it was built to do. The system was smart enough to know when it had been orphaned. And like any orphan, it screamed for its mother. And guess what? The mother didn't work there anymore. A screenshot floated around Twitter by 3 p.m., a redacted image of the clause, with my initials barely blurred. Captioned, "The demo was licensed. They forgot to read the fine print." The replies were brutal. One said, "Imagine firing the woman who built your spaceship, then wondering why it won't launch." Another? "Pizza, AI, apparently." And my personal favorite, from some random VC account. "She didn't break the product. She was the product." I didn't respond, didn't tweet, didn't like or repost, just watched it all burn, quiet, still, exactly as planned. The first message came at 4:36 p.m. Subject line, touching base, hoping to reconnect. No greeting, no apology, just corporate desperation masked in civility. The kind of email that probably took 15 drafts and 3 legal reviews to hit the right tone of friendly but not culpable. It started with, "Hi, her name? I hope you're doing well. I realize there's been some unfortunate miscommunication, and I'd love to chat when you have a moment. We really valued your work here, and I believe we may be able to find a way forward together." He signed it with his first name, like we were colleagues, like he hadn't signed off on my termination less than 24 hours after stealing my platform and giving my architecture credit to a man who still thought Jason was a startup. I didn't respond, not because I was angry. Anger burns out too fast. I was efficient, precise. The same way I wrote code. If you want access to my platform again, you'll do it on my time, under my terms. At 6:02 p.m., the second message arrived. Shorter this time. No preamble. No tone-deaf charm. Just 3 words. Name your price. No subject line. No punctuation. The mask was off. I finished reading it, closed my laptop, took another bite of the leftover sandwich from earlier, and let him wait. Delays have gravity. Let the silence remind them who controls the current. I let it sit overnight. The next morning at exactly 8:00 a.m., I sent a reply. 1.2 mailers. 10-hour minimum blocks. Billed in advance, that's all. No greeting, no signature, no emoji. Not even a file attachment. Just the rate and the rules. Because this wasn't about ego. It was about ownership. They didn't hire me. They rented me. And then they breached the lease. By 8:06, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Straight to voicemail. Then a follow-up email. Please confirm availability for today's call. My reply? Wire receipt first. Because here's the thing no one at the top ever seems to understand. The IP wasn't theirs. It never was. My contract never assigned the code. It licensed deployment, tied directly to my LLC. They were renters in my system, squatting on the illusion of control until I pulled the keys. And when they revoked my access without terminating the license properly, they didn't just lose the platform. They violated the clause that made it legal to run in the first place. Clause 6.2. License is revocable only upon mutual agreement or breach of payment terms. Guess what never happened? They never read that part. They thought cutting off my badge was the end. But they never understood the only badge that mattered was the one in the Git root. The one tied to the private key they forgot to revoke. So now, they pay, up front, in silence. And maybe, they get access to their own product again. But only if I feel like showing up. The boardroom door hit the wall so hard it left a dent. That's how the meeting started, from what I heard. Someone told me later that the CTO tried to spin it before he even sat down, rattling off words like unexpected variables, legacy issues, and unauthorized overrides, as if the room didn't already have the receipts in 100 Slack messages and CI/CD logs. But the investors weren't biting. One of them, a stone-faced woman from Vantage Capital, allegedly interrupted his opening with, "Your platform launched a pizza GIF during a $95 million demo. Explain that with fewer syllables." He floundered, blamed rogue logic, tried insinuating I'd left something malicious in the pipeline, said it fast, like if he said it with enough confidence, it would pass for truth. That's when Alina, God bless her spine, slid a printed stack across the table. My original documentation, annotated, highlighted, indexed, each step of the fallback condition outlined with time-stamped commits and proof of knowledge handoffs. Her voice didn't shake when she said, "She told him about it twice. It's in the changelog and the handover sheet. He just didn't read it." Silence. Then someone, possibly the board chair, asked the only question that mattered. "So you're saying she didn't sabotage the demo?" He did. That's when the vote happened. The email reached my inbox at 11:44 a.m. Subject: Leadership Transition. Body: Effective immediately. CTO name will be departing the company. We thank him for his service and wish him the best. Short, sterile. The kind of email HR templates have ready before the first apology call is made. And that call came at 11:56. Same number as before. No voicemail this time. I let it ring 4 times, then picked up. He didn't start with a greeting, didn't ask how I was. Just exhaled and waited. I didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. Let the tension stretch until it trembled. Then, "Send the transfer. Then we'll talk." That was it. I could hear him swallow, literally. One of those dry, desperate swallows people make when they realize the check they're about to write isn't just financial, it's existential. He whispered, "Okay." I hung up. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, because there was nothing else to say until my terms were met. They thought I'd built them a product. I hadn't. I'd built them a leash. And the moment they cut it, they found themselves in the wild, naked, confused, and very, very alone. The lobby looked exactly the same, polished concrete, those dumb motivational posters in Helvetica font, the scent of burnt espresso from the fancy machine no one knew how to clean. But this time, I didn't wear the badge. I didn't need to scan in. Security had my name on a list, printed in all caps with a handwritten note beside it. "Escort to floor 5. Do not delay." They didn't ask for ID. They didn't ask for a signature, just a stiff nod and a radio call. "She's here." When the elevator opened, the CEO was waiting. No entourage, no handshake, just him, holding the door like a valet. He didn't speak. Smart man. I stepped out onto the 5th floor, demo room already reset. All traces of the pizza incident scrubbed away. Cables coiled perfectly, microphones tested. Investors seated again, trying to pretend they hadn't spent the last 48 hours laughing stock adjacent. I could feel the tension the way you feel heat before a lightning strike. Everyone looked at me like I was radioactive and holy all at once. No one offered me a chair. No one asked me to sit. That was fine. I wasn't here to be comfortable. I walked straight to the terminal. Someone had set up a machine for me, freshly imaged, sanitized, reset to factory specs like it hadn't just been part of the worst demo failure in the company's history. Cute. I reached into my bag, pulled out the only thing that mattered, my encrypted USB, black, matte, unlabeled, plugged it in, no password prompts, no delays. The system recognized the drive like a dog recognizing its owner. I ran the local boot, the real one. The platform I had spent the better part of a year building in pieces while they played musical chairs with leadership and slapped buzzwords on investor decks. The interface blinked on, fluid, responsive, intuitive. Data pipelines flowed across the screen in living color. Live queries parsed in real time. Predictive insights pulled from dummy datasets with accuracy so fast, the investors leaned forward without realizing it. Everything, absolutely everything, just worked. No lag, no errors, no pizza. When it finished, no one clapped. They didn't need to. The silence wasn't awkward, it was reverent. One of the reporters mouthed, "Jesus Christ," to no one in particular. I stepped back from the console, didn't smile, didn't bow. I just stood there, watching. The CEO finally broke the quiet. We're thrilled to announce our recommitment to the original platform roadmap, with her name, LLC, providing architecture oversight moving forward. He looked at me, unsure whether he was allowed to gesture toward me like I was a person or a goddamn storm system that had briefly paused over their building. I didn't speak, just nodded once. From the back, a junior engineer whispered what everyone else in the room had already figured out. She was the whole system, wasn't she? No one answered. They didn't have to. The new contract was 13 pages long, half of it just clauses outlining how little access they'd have to me. No Slack invites, no surprise, quick questions, no meetings unless prepaid, and definitely no proximity to anyone who once called me the back-end girl. I sat across from the CEO in a conference room that used to be named after a forest. Redwood, maybe. They'd renamed all the rooms after adjectives a few months back. This one was now called Bold. The irony was exhausting. He signed with the kind of careful hand that knows every letter costs money. Each stroke of the pen marked a defeat, but also a transaction. And that's what this was now, just business. The terms were clear. $12,000 an hour, 10-hour minimum, billed in advance, no team access, and all IP rights retained. They wouldn't own a single line I wrote from here on out. They could license it, sure, on my terms. But own it? Never again. He slid the folder across the table. I didn't touch it right away, just looked through the glass wall that separated the executive suite from the dev bullpen. My old desk was still there. Someone else sat at it now. Same chair, different posture. A junior, maybe? She had her head down, typing furiously, probably trying to prove something to someone who wouldn't remember her name in 6 months. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel smug. I just felt done. I took the folder, closed it, stood. The CEO rose too, reflexively. "We're glad to have you back," he said. "You don't," I replied, slinging my bag over one shoulder. "You have the work, not me." He didn't argue. As I walked past the glass, a few of the devs looked up. Some looked embarrassed. Some looked relieved. A couple looked like they wanted to say something. But I didn't stop. I wasn't here for recognition. I wasn't here for closure. I was here for control. Back at my apartment, I poured a drink, opened my laptop, checked the wire transfer, cleared. Good. Then I opened GitHub. My personal repo had spiked in activity, trending number 2 in architecture. The pizza payload branch had gone semi-viral. Someone even forked it into a Slack bot. Pinned at the top was a comment under my README. "Next time, tip your dev." I clicked like, closed the tab, and let the silence fill the room like a server hum. Voiceover, not spoken but felt, like a truth finally allowed to stretch its legs. They thought they could cut me out, but I wasn't a plug-in. I was the platform.